It is also important to note that the poverty line for each country is different. Wealthy countries, like the United States, have higher numbers than poor countries. For example, the poverty level for one person living in the U.S. is about $10,000, which is far above an average family's income in most of the developing countries on our Earth. It is estimated that if the U.S. poverty level were used worldwide, nearly 90% of the world's people would be below our poverty line. That's right, there is an enormous number of very poor. The purpose of our trip around the world is to understand where we stand, in the perspective of the world, and see how blessed and joyful we should be for the prosperity we have to live and give. Mexico. Now for our first stop on our worldly trip, let's visit our neighbor Mexico. Mexico's data and information for our other stops comes from the World Fact Book, published by the CIA. South of California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas is an imaginary yet very real line that separates the United States from Mexico, one of our only two neighbors. What exists across this invisible line is a significantly poor nation, ranked in the lower two-thirds of all countries of the world. The lower two-thirds may not seem too low, but one must remember that there are so many poor people and families in the world. There is also a small financial difference between these poor countries that the country's ranking is not a good measure of Mexico's situation. Looking at the gross domestic product, or capita ranking, we see that Mexico has only 1/4 of the earnings of an individual in the States, a significant difference that hurts many Mexican families' lives. Again, the difference between being near the top 1/3 of countries but having only 1/4 of the income of the United States lies in the fact that there are a relatively small number of wealthy countries and individuals, compared to many poor countries on our Earth. Another way to say it is that the distribution of wealth here on Earth is not equal, but very top-heavy. Because most Mexican families barely earn enough to survive, they have no ability to borrow, and carry almost no consumer debt. However, the U.S., with its wealth, has the ability to go into severe consumer debt, buying things that we sometimes don't need, with money we don't have, trying to impress people we don't even know. In Mexico, poverty means no credit, and no loans for new or used cars, boats, televisions, and that which we in the States regularly can buy on credit. The infant mortality rate is 3 times that of the United States. There are poor odds for beginning life because of poverty and because of poor health care. Their income goes toward the most basic items, such as food, water, and some type of shelter. The population below the poverty level is another tricky number. Did I mention that